The best thing about the miler is the reward at the end is a Pounamu, and for me, I've never been given one. I was never gifted one by anyone. My father told me that he would never buy me one. He said you have to earn it, and Dad was right into married him, so we never got one, and that sort of kind of hurt. And then I thought, that's a Pounamu in this event. If I work hard, I can get one. And that was part of my dream, was to chase that Pounamu. My name is Adrian. I'm 58 years of age and I've been living in Tarawera since 1995 with my wife. I have 2 girls, both completed uni, still looking after them. I work at Eastpac, CA forecourt manager. I am really enjoying my job. There's a lot of freedom there, which is great, and just got into this running bug, which I'm enjoying. I think the girls think it's pretty cool. I think my wife thinks it's mad. She said, why can't you just go for a 5K run? I actually haven't got an answer for her. I just like being out there. It's like a vice, to be fair. Some people drink, some people smoke. I do neither of those 2 things. That's probably my vice, is being out there, running around, and people don't understand it.
For me, the extent that he's doing the 100 miles, I'm not talking about the 30s and the 50s, I'm talking about, you know, this major stuff, 100 miles. He doesn't need to be doing that to make me proud, and you know, it's not for me, it's for him. And it's almost an obsession. When he was doing 30s and 50s, that was supposed to be it, and then it went from a 50 to 100 Ks, you know, and that was supposed to be it. And then all of a sudden out came the 100 mile, this is brand new, and I'm going to give it a crack.
The 100-mile course is a circumnavigation of 9 of the 14 lakes in the Rotorua district. The course makes its way out of Rotorua through the redwood forest along to the buried village. The mile competitors then navigate their way along the single track of Lake Tarawera towards the isthmus, and then they take a short boat ride across Lake Rotomahana and end up at Rewhakaitu, get into the Tarawera forest through a bunch of forestry roads, and eventually loop their way all the way back round to Lake Tarawera at the outlet. Once they've reached Lake Okataina, they do a massive climb up onto the Western Okataina walkway that eventually takes them back towards civilization through Kirika village and to the Blue Lake. And from there they've got a 14 kilometres back down into Rotorua for a finish, and hopefully the chance to receive their Pounamu and celebrate the fact that they've completed the course within 36 hours. For the 2018 event, we had rain start about 2 hours before the race and finish about 2 hours after, so we had 40 hours of solid rain.
I think on the day I was really pumped up, and in my head there were no obstacles in my way. It was raining, the tracks were going to be wet. The training, I'd put the training in. By the time I got to Tarawera outlet, yeah, over 1,000 people had run through those trails, so it was pretty sloppy. I was the last person up Tarawera Hill. By the time I got to Okataina, we'd run out of time.
The mighty DNF did not finish. It's a horrible thing actually in an event. The real tough one is where someone misses a cut-off time. So they're actually physically they're well, medically they're well, they're just slow for whatever reason.
Even when I didn't make the cut-off at Okataina, I walked away or I was driven away from there thinking I'm going to come back and do this next year. Before we even got out of Lake Okataina. It was solid, locked in me. I'm coming back. I want that greenstone. For this round of the 100 miler, I've changed my training slightly, more time on feet. So seriously for me, I'm going to be on my feet for 30 hours plus. So I've got to train myself to be awake and be alert for all that time. So I spend a lot of time on the Mount Maunganui, going up and down and around, morning and night. It took a long time for me to be able to get up there efficiently, for sure. And I do have a special spot nearly to the top, and I stopped there, and I think of my dad who passed away 8 years ago, but we were pretty tight. I stopped there, that's my moment of reflection, really. I stop there, look out over the water. It's just really peaceful, and I've struggled a lot to get there, and sometimes I just feel wind blowing me, like it's pushing me over the top, like it's willing me to go on. That might not be true, but that's how I feel. and that's who I think of, and it gives me the inspiration to keep going, to really dig deep when sometimes you have to. And I know on the 100 miler you got to dig deep. My father used to cycle 10 Ks 5 o'clock in the morning to get an extra 1 hour's overtime. That's the sort of stuff Dad would do 6 days a week, going with me when I had my paper rounds and riding up steep hills that I never thought Dad could do, because he was in his 40s and I thought that's way too old to be doing that. But he surprised me, he could dig deep, and I like that. And do I try to emulate that? Probably. Very proud of him.
I get a lot of inspiration walking up to a start line. There is energy that's coming from everybody. It's this, we're about to do something really hard. And when we're all standing at a start line, there isn't really a way to tell who's going to be the back of the pack, who's going to be the middle of the pack, who's going to win this race. We all have the same goal in mind, and that's to get to the finish line.
The vibe when I turn up to a start line is usually, I think there's like anticipation, anxiety. You know, some people are really worried because it's their first, or some people get really nervous. I don't really get too nervous anymore. I'm just more like want to get it going. Like I've tapered, I've trained, I've rested, and I've shown up hopefully ready. And for me, I just want to get moving.
When we got to the start line, I thought of last year. I was actually standing there thinking, I want to be able to come back as a finisher, because I didn't finish the year before. I'm not saying there were doubts, but I was thinking, wow, it's a long time before I'm going to be back here.
Who runs a 100-mile endurance run? Most people would say someone who's downright crazy. I'd say actually it's someone who's really strong, someone who knows themselves pretty well, who's really keen on a challenge, and for whatever reason the challenge of a 100-mile journey is something that captures their imagination.
You got to be prepared to put yourself out there and take some risks, and sometimes they pay off and sometimes they don't. And then I guess us to be kind of stupid or stubborn enough to keep coming back until you get it right.
Well, you have to be tenacious. You have to be self-motivated, because you have to get out there every day and train. On the days even when it's bad weather and you don't really feel like training, you have to find that motivator that gets you out the door.
You have to love to run, you have to have a joy for it, because you're out there for so long, and so it's not just about the competition, but enjoying the experience of it.
Definitely things like patience, persistence, not giving up on yourself or on a course or on the day, and being able to maybe change plans, like flexibility.
I'm going to get across that line. I saw some pretty despondent people who are really good runners who didn't finish. You know, there's over 40 of them that didn't finish. So I wasn't alone, so I certainly don't feel like a loser. I feel like I was up for the challenge, I took it on, I didn't make it this time. I'll make it next time. That's what I'm about. My daughter Michaela is my #1 pit crew, and she has her boyfriend and there's other family members, Chanel and Dean, who are helping get me ready and through an aid station. Michaela has completed the 50 before, so she knows what you need. So she was very quick with changing whatever I needed changing. Dad, what do you need? So her role was, if I asked for something, she would do it like instantly, and she would try and read my mind.
Yeah, crew is huge in those longer races, and not only for, you know, the gear they can give you when you see them, but also just the positivity and how they can lift your spirits when you see their faces. But they also have to be pretty tough on you and push you out of the aid stations, not let you dilly-dally too long.
For me, running in the bush at Tarawera, I can feel people who have been there before me, who have run through there from the pink terraces back in the day. I feel really safe when I'm in there. It puts me at peace, and I can see things for what they really are. That helps me. It centres me, it really does. I think for me, leaving the isthmus and then running down towards the boat, I remember feeling so much better this year than I did last year. That feeling was instant, and I also felt like running through that bush area and looking up at Mount Tarawera, which it felt so nice to look up there and see people, for me, who have passed on. My mum and dad, my sister, aunties, uncles. It's some weird connection. I don't know how it works. I felt like they're watching me saying, you can do this, you've got this, just keep going, you know, one foot in front of the other. I know where the aid station is, the next one, and I've got family there. So that also sort of motivated me to keep it going. Yeah, it's nice to see some familiar faces out there that care about you, and because you're out there for yourself, to be fair. You know, it's a selfish sport, but you're out there for yourself. People may say they're running for their family, but you're running for yourself. That's how I see it. When you're running into an aid station and they're there waiting, boot open, all your stuff's there, they do everything for you. Wow, this is kind of cool. I don't have to do anything. They're doing it all. Filling up my packs, replenishing everything, making sure I'm okay, good headspace, big hug, key, and off you go again. And I'll see you at the next one.
When runners leave the outlet at 100 kilometres into the race, they enter the most technical part of the course. Rocky, rooty, narrow single track. They wind their way up a couple of serious little climbs and drop down into the remote and most isolated aid station of Humphreys Bay. They run their way through these courses in the dark, and all the while knowing that the cut-off time at Lake Okataina is 6:30 on Sunday morning.
I was thinking, I can't wait to get to Okataina. That was the bugbear for us, because that's as far as we made it. That was in my head the whole way. I just had Okataina. Weirdly, I never had the finish in mind. I had Okataina. I had to get across that hump in my head. I wasn't sure how long it was going to take us to get from Humphreys up to Okataina, the first cut-off. I was looking at my watch, thinking, we've got to go, you know, we've got to start moving.
The reality is, when you organise an event, you have to implement some arbitrary cut-off times and some points where you say enough is enough. And those might be a time point where you have to get past a certain point by a certain time, and if you're too slow for that, you'll be cut off the course.
I think not making it into Okataina, but last year we didn't know, we weren't looking at times. We just assumed we made it, and we were way off, 70 minutes plus I think we were away from making that cut-off, but in our heads somehow we thought we were okay. My daughter had to tell me that, Dad, you haven't made the cut-off.
I really didn't want that point to be the end point again, because it would be really gutting for Dad, but also me, because I just really wanted him to finish, and I just didn't want that to happen again, because I hated telling him the first time that he couldn't continue because he didn't know.
I just pushed the pace a little bit more because I wanted to get into Okataina. I wanted to make it, and I thought, wow, in my head, we've only got 20 minutes to get there, and we're still, in my head, a few Ks away.
As a race director, it's probably the most gutting part of being involved in an event, to actually have to stop someone at a location and say, we know you've paid to come and do this thing, you've trained for it all year long, but sorry, you can't carry on anymore. That's tough.
A little bit nervous because time's ticking. I don't know.
And what's number 3's name?
Adrian Henry.
Just checking on the tail enders and seeing if we can work out who we know is the last of the known runners out there.
Who are the numbers?
Number 3.
Potentially still on course.
Yep.
Last seen at the outlet, so still coming your way.
Can you hear that number? About 5k out.
But that was at 5:30.
But they're slowing down.
But they're slowing down.
Maybe the new light will give a bit of encouragement and they might be able to make the cut-off, but the cut-off's strictly 6:30.
We were towards the back, but there were still quite a few people sitting there trying to recover to get enough gumption to get going again. I was thinking, wow, if I'm that close, people are going to drop off here where we dropped off. That was a scary thought for me, thinking, wow, I've got to make it. I've got to make it. So I pushed off, and I came in a couple of minutes early than Den, not many, but out on the track, those 2 minutes obviously can be the difference between making a cut-off and not making a cut-off. Know the times, know where you are, know what you have to do. Close, it wasn't planned like that, but that's just how the race unfolded on that day. I knew we had a marathon to run when we left Okataina, which is kind of crazy to think I've still got a marathon, and those hills, wow, they're good hills.
Having made Okataina, you've got to that critical cut-off, but you've still got to go up the Western Okataina hill, get all the way through Okirika village and down to Blue Lake, where you finally get the respite of your friends and your family and that extra boost you need.
I think when I start a race and, you know, the crowd spreads out and everyone kind of settles into, you know, front, middle, back of the pack, I remind myself we are all doing the exact same course. It's just that some of us get to finish at a faster time, but those that are finishing at the back of the pack, I have a lot of respect for, because clearly their mental capacity and strength is very great. Because when it comes down to it, these races, they demand that. They demand that your mind stays focused. They demand that your mind and your heart has this belief and hope that you're gonna get to that finish line. You have to endure more of the elements. You have to endure a trail that's probably beat up a little bit more. When it comes to the middle, back of the pack, you know, that work is just as hard and just as admirable as people that get to stand on the podium.
When you break it down, it's just one thing. You're just moving forward. That's all you have to do is keep moving forward. And things that help that are your mental state. So like, if you start to spiral in your heads, to switch the story, think of something different, or even like fake positivity to yourself, whatever you have to do. Or calories, like food helps a lot, and sometimes that's exactly what your body needs to just keep moving forward.
I got to Miller Road, got refreshed and refueled, and to be fair, I felt a lot more emotional then. I was starting to feel emotional. Michaela said, "Dad, do you want me to run with you?" I said, "Yep." I needed her to run with me. At that point there, I remember seeing a guy on the intersection playing guitar, singing Hipu, and I thought, wow, this is just unreal. That's my dad's favourite song that they'd sung in Korea in 51 to 54. It's also the song that my girls and Chanel sung for my dad at Ranfurly War Veterans Home. To me, that's a sign. You're on the right track, boy. I was thinking, someone's watching me. This is real. Keep going. I didn't feel bad being last, because in my head, I knew a lot of people had dropped off. I knew in my head, at least 20 people are behind me that aren't going to make it. I felt for them. I didn't feel for me being last. I felt for them, because their race is over. They're done. I have an opportunity, I have a chance to make it, but it's up to me.
All right, mate, don't panic. Don't blow yourself up. Okay. Hour 10 to do 5.5K, all right? Yeah. You've got this, man. Don't worry.
I not once thought I wasn't going to make the cutoff, but I knew it was tight. I didn't realise how tight. Michaela's telling me that you're okay, Dad, your time's fine, you haven't slowed down, because we were checking the pace every kilometre. And it was hot, and I'd run out of water. As a rookie, I used a lot of the water to put over my head and not drink. Probably 3 kilometres out, I was really thirsty, and there was no water to drink. So I was starting to feel it. And then someone out of the blue said, "Chris is here." Well, I found another gear. And I saw her face, I saw my wife. That sort of, I don't know what it was. It was a huge boost to me to see her there, and the big look on her face, and she said something, "You've got this, darling, you've got this, you can do this," you know. In my head, I just wanted to walk for a few minutes. That wasn't an option, because I'd missed cut-offs because it was so close. And that was really close.
6 minutes, okay? And then you have to move. Yep. Right?
Seeing Chris there, that gave me enough energy to to start running or pumping or the best I could in the condition that I was in at the time. That's something that I needed. I really needed that.
Okay, 5 minutes, buddy, 5 minutes. 3 minutes.
Why is it important to me? We've been through a lot together through our life. Having her there for me, first time ever in all my running, that was a major thing for me. Huge, biggest thing ever was seeing her there. It was cool, yeah. It was nice. Yeah, it's a real thing, having her there, knowing, and she wasn't saying you can't do this, she was saying you got this, you know, that's the booster. Yeah, I'm lucky, yeah, that's how I felt. I felt lucky, felt like a bit of a winner then, you know, at Blue Lake, yeah, it's cool.
Okay, mate, you've got 3 hours and 2 minutes to get to the finish line. Sorry to be a stickler, but we want to get you there, man.
Yeah. Oh, we're all behind you. That's
got it. I didn't get you last year.
Oh, no, kiss the luck. Look at that.
That support is absolutely crucial when you're at tail end, Charlie. They get you through, and it's your choice. It is really your choice whether you make that cut-off or you don't. There is options, and I was thinking about some of them at that time, thinking, wow, am I going to make it? I really didn't know.
I got the message that Adrian was just 3 or 4 minutes ahead of the cut-off time at Okataina, 125 kilometres into the 100-mile race, and I thought, oh boy, this is going to be tight. Great, he's got 125k through his race. He's still in the hunt for this. He's just surpassed the point where he, you know, had to pull out last year. The conditions are in his favour. He's got all the determination in the world. I reckon he can do this. And so I just kept tracking, and then when he came past Miller Road, which was the next aid station, he was about 2 minutes up on what the final cut-off time would be, although it wasn't a cut-off point. And the next point was the Blue Lake, where there was a cut-off, and he left that aid station right on the cut-off time. So he was gradually losing time to the cut-off.
I had complete strangers calling out my name because I was tailing Charlie. They knew I was coming because there's people pulling down all sorts of stuff, and there's medic people behind, you know, scooping people up. That's how it felt.
I was starting to feel a bit concerned about it, and I had this suspicion that he would get into the Redwoods aid station just a bit behind the cut-off time.
I knew I was close to cut-offs, and I was thinking, wow, am I going to make it into the Redwoods? Oh, hang on, there's no cut-off there. But there's another cut-off coming, but I've got to get to the Redwoods first. I knew that Chris was going to be at the Redwoods, Chanel and Dean, Mux, and they were. So, kind of special, you know. I helped raise some of those kids, and here they are helping me on a mission.
Sure enough, when Adrian got to the Redwoods aid station, he was about 5 minutes behind the cut-off pace that he would need with only 5k to go.
And everyone said, you've only got 40 or something minutes or whatever it was. I was thinking, in my head, I very quickly did the math and whoa, that's, I don't know if I can do that at that point.
So he was going to have to speed up, and at that point I rang my course manager of that section. I said, I'm heading out on the course, I'm going to pick Adrian up.
Somewhere along after we left the Redwoods, Chris Townley said, mate, Tim Day's on his way out. In my heart, I think I started to cry. Weird but true. And then I saw this big machine running towards me, his name's Tim Day, and inside I was melting, seriously.
Met Adrian with about 4k to go, and thought, right, how are we gonna get you home?
And I felt real special.
He was determinedly hiking out this race, looking actually really incredible for someone who'd run 157 kilometres already, but going too slow to make the cut-off time. You know, that was the reality. He was sort of doing 14 minutes a k, and he had half an hour left to do 4k. Just the maths wasn't going to work out. We just started egging him on and egging him on and slowly lifting that pace, and I just kept an eye on my watch, and I knew that we actually needed to do a couple of sort of 7 or 8 minute kilometres to really give them that chance. We needed to put a bit in the bank, but you can't just get someone to double their speed, especially with 4 or 5k to go still, because if you do that for 2 kilometres and you stop, you won't make the last 2k home.
I heard radio messages coming in saying, oh, how far away are you? Inside I'm freaking out, thinking I'm not going to make it. Even though I'm doing a bit of running, I'm not an elite athlete or anything like that, barely call myself an athlete. And I never thought, and I've heard about people saying you can push yourself, and I used to think it was a lot of baloney.
that you don't know what you can do until you push yourself. That's the only time in my life where I felt that I wasn't allowed to stop. I wanted to, I so wanted to stop and walk for 2 minutes, but everything was motivating all the way. My daughter around me, my niece around me, people I barely know, and I was pushed above and beyond what I ever thought I was capable of. Forget about the other 155 Ks, that 5 Ks is the killer. That measures you. The 155 is tough, but not like the last 5 Ks, particularly if you have to run the last 5 Ks. I needed all the support team I had. I needed every single one of them, and the people who weren't there. I needed my dad, you know, I needed my mum. It's crazy who you need, and my sister, when you're at that point. And all the other people who have gone, being Māori, that's what you think of, you know, the Wairua and all those things, that's true. So my little spot up on the mountain with Dad, I was thinking of that.
Oh, boozy cub. Look at this man. What's about him? This man is incredible. He's bringing it home. He's doing us proud. Well done, buddy. Inspirational, man.
You know, in my head, I've done it. You know, like, wow, I'm there. There's so many people around me. All the people that care were there. And I felt pretty special that I was getting treated the way I was getting treated. But I felt really cool, I felt special. And all that hard work, and there was lots of it, but to be there with Tim at the end was just awesome. And the next person to come in was my wife. Can't beat it. My daughter never left my heart. She was there the whole time. Casey was always there, and Janae. You know, I was thinking of all my family in that last 3 Ks to get me through. That's probably why I did it. If you could replicate that feeling, it makes you feel pretty special, pretty bulletproof. So little things that go wrong at work, not such a big deal, you know, seriously. As long as you're surrounded by people that care about you, pretty special. And I still feel like that today. That hasn't gone away, that hasn't waned one little bit. I don't think it ever will. You know, I've got lots of special memories of my dad. Now I've got a really special one of finishing a run that was tough. People say, oh, it's not that tough. Have a go. Have a go. It's doable stuff, but you've got to dig deep to do it. And surround yourself with good people. I'm just really fortunate that I've made a friend forever in completing that run, and lots of other people as well along our journey. So I'm very fortunate.